Okay, as we look at chapter 5 in this week 3 of our data driven decisions, we want to touch on the topic of instruments and operationalization. Two key concepts that relate significantly to the understanding of social science research in general, and more specifically as it relates to data driven decisions and evaluation. We look at instruments, we want to first understand the difference between quantitative research and qualitative research. Quantitative research is how much does this weigh, how many seconds does this take, how many dollars does this consume, and the numbers are quantitative, numerical, and clearly multiplied, added, subtracted, so on and so forth. Qualitative is sometimes referred to data that's more narrative. In other words, how do you feel about this? Or how do you think this is working? Or what's the nature of your team? How effective are you? And so these are not so much on a scale of 1 to 5 or things like that, although they can be. You can take qualitative data and translate it into numerical data in that way. But it's more related to the intuitive, the softer side of data, and it's often described through narrative analysis. We can use surveys to look at data. We can survey how much people weigh. We can survey how old people are. We can survey how often they shop at Best Buy. We can survey on how they feel about their local church. So surveys are usually forms, electronic or paper, that can be filled out and tabulated to understand the nature of the data. Interviews, again, are more narrative. Some of them are quite structured, such as how old are you? How many children do you have? What country are you from? Some of them are more open-ended, like what do you look for when you buy a car? And what do you like most about working at this company? And then observations can be just a structured way of watching what people do and seeing the way in which they act. So instruments give us some structure, some tracks to run on, and understanding how we can assess the effectiveness of those around us. When it comes to operationalization, this is a long word, but it really means to become more specific, clear, and concise on what it is we're actually talking about. In other words, we want to frame out key terms to help us focus on key constructs. In other words, I want to be healthy. Okay, what does that mean? Our church wants to be effective. What does that mean? Our youth group is growing. Does that mean we're growing qualitatively? Does that mean we're growing quantitatively? Does that mean we're growing in the number of students who attend? Are these students from our church? It's really clarifying what it is we're talking about, defining clearly what means what. So when we say attendance at our youth group is growing, what that would mean then, are we assuming that these are the attendance of the teens or the attendance of the youth sponsors? Does this mean that we have a weekly average, or this is average across months or even years? The example I want to use is if we talked about the term good health. We might define or operationalize good health by involving at least one feature that we'll call optimal weight. In other words, people in good health might have an optimal weight range in which they fall. The most common one probably is the BMI, the body mass index. And so we can say that good health is operationalized by optimal weight, which is further operationalized by BMI. So if I take a person like myself who's 5'10" inches tall, the maximum weight that I can have is about 173 pounds to be demonstrating normal body mass index. If I weigh more than 174, then that would describe me as overweight. So they operationalize optimal health in 3 categories: below average, average, and above average. And so when you look at BMI, it's one way to operationalize optimal health, which is one way to operationalize good health. Another way we could operationalize optimal weight would be to look at my waist circumference. So in my Levi jeans, I wear a 34 waist, which is bigger than the 32 waist that I used to wear. So when you think of the data that's related to your topic, you have to think about how do we clearly operationalize the data that's associated with our particular study. So if we look effectiveness of NFL quarterbacks playing pro football, we might say that we're going to operationalize their effectiveness by looking at their passer rating. We could also look at other measures as well. Whatever you study, you have to bring clarity by operationalizing the key terms of a key constructs and defining clearly what means what.